Number 1, call to order, roll call. To my right, Martin McKinney, Selectman. To my left, Rich Grabowski, Selectman. To his left, Lisa Wood, Executive Secretary, and Tina Falk, First Selectman. Number 2, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we move on to number 3, approval of meeting minutes. We have A through E. We have special meeting minutes of February 26th, special meeting minutes of February 27th, regular meeting minutes of February 27th, special meeting minutes of February 29th, and special meeting minutes of March 5th. Are there any?
I make a motion that we approve items 3A, B, C, D, and E as presented.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to number 4. A, resignation letter from John Hogan from Public Health and Safety. You've had a chance to read that?
Well,
I guess we make a motion, we accept it. Is that what we want to do?
Mhm.
I make a motion, we accept the with regret letter from John Hogan for public safety, health and safety.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, move on to number 5, old business. A, discussion and possible action on proposed alarm ordinance. And I don't know if this is something we want to revisit if a new alarm ordinance is crafted.
I've got I think at that meeting, it was pretty much dropped by the ordinance committee.
Okay,
That's the impression I got at that meeting.
Back up, Rich, it was
I'm
talked
sorry.
about shelving the alarm ordinance at that meeting unless we need it. If the fire department's determined that get more nuisance alarms in the future, then we'll bring it back up. Right off the
Okay.
shelf.
Thanks for correcting me.
okay, thank you.
So I guess I want a motion that we shelve it temporarily until it comes back for us.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to 5B, discussion and possible action on economic development opportunity at 77 Anthony Street, Wirewind property. I'm going to suggest that we table that at this time. We did receive a call from Tom Giard today asking, saying that they wouldn't be prepared to discuss it at tonight's meeting.
Then I'll make a motion that we table it till economic development comes back before us with the Wirewine property, 77 Anthony Street, Hewitt City.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5C, discussion and possible action on multi-jurisdictional shelter. I don't know if you've had a chance to read through this.
Yes,
I have.
I have.
Okay, any discussion?
It's a good idea. There's a lot of caveats in it.
It's a big financial commitment
Absolutely.
It is.
from us, and I'm not sure if something along those lines couldn't be dealt with in-house.
Okay,
God forbid it ever happens,
okay.
but, it just seems like,
I'd also probably feel more comfortable if somebody that's presenting this from the Plainfield would come and speak about it rather than just giving us a piece of paper. Because Rich is right, it is a financial burden. And, it's tough to figure out how it works and plugging the pieces in and one's required and ours required.
in other words, like, are we committed to supply personnel even if
If
our town isn't?
doesn't, right,
affected?
exactly.
I
That's the
don't
way
know.
I was
I don't
reading
know.
too, so.
There are a lot of question marks on this agreement. So would you like me to reach out and see if we could set up some type of meeting to discuss further?
If you guys think it's worthwhile, or I'm fine to just let it go. If it's up to you guys.
I'll listen to the Red Cross if they,
Sure, I would too.
it'd be the Red Cross, not Plainfield, I think.
Okay. So I will reach out to the Red Cross and see if we can have some further discussion on it, and then we'll bring it up.
Make a motion to table 5C. till we hear back from the Red Cross.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 6, new business. Discussion and possible action on 3 tax refunds for a total of $139.23 as presented by Leona Sharkey Tax Collector.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 3 tax refunds totaling $139.23 as presented by the tax collector.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6B, discussion and possible action on request of Griswold Public Health and Safety Committee to solicit donations to purchase car safety kits. Sure, Paul, if you could tell us a little bit more about this.
Give you a little history on this thing. It came up just prior to winter, and the committee decided that maybe we could create some safety kits for the residents in town. This would include a flashlight, a first aid kit, sprayer, blanket, and so on. So the first thing we did is we went out to our 2 representatives to try to see if we could acquire funds through some grant. Well, that didn't work out too well. So the next thing we want to do is we just want to go for donations to see if we can go, like, what we want to do is we want to go to Lowe's, we want to go to Target, Walmart, Home Depot, and Ocean State, and ask them if they would mind donating something to the town so that we can purchase these things or put together some means of a safety kit for the residents. No
Okay.
cost to the town, no nothing, it's just simply trying to do something for the residents for the safety kit. So that's where we are. If we don't
Okay.
get any funds, then we'll just have to table it.
Okay, so I think the question that, have you given thought to or discussion on how would those be distributed? How would it be first come, first serve, or
Yeah, I don't think.
Any
we're gonna be able to
priority?
give Everybody a safety kit, because there's not that much money. we're
no,
gonna get.
no?
If you first come, first served, just like you do with food.
Okay.
You know, 1 per car, that,
Okay,
you know, if we get limited funds, maybe the best thing to do is to give everybody a first aid kit, which makes sense. So, at least you have it in your car.
That's a good idea.
What is in the kit, if you don't mind me asking, for the safety kit?
I'm sorry.
What is in the kit for the safety kit, like?
I think normally if you buy a kit, I think they're like 25 or 40 bucks, right? There's a blanket, there's sole blankets, there's a sprayer, a flashlight. What else is in there? First aid kit. Yeah, and then a couple of small articles that's in the bag. I don't know, I carry one in my car, but, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure if we can get a kit.
right.
How much money we get,
Any thought with the Red Cross?
not yet.
Might want to try the Red Cross
That'd
too.
be our next step.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah, because they're pretty good with,
You can try the Red Cross, see if they got anything.
yeah. Yep. Okay, so you'll keep us informed on that?
Yeah, we want to send the donations out, but we want to get that going.
So I guess, do we have to make a motion that we don't mind them going out for, or do you just leave it the way it is?
You can. Sure.
I would make it a motion that you give them permission to solicit donations.
All right, I'll make a motion that, health and safety, we're giving them permission to, try to solicit donations for their, for
We
their,
actually talked to the finance director already on how the funds come in to the town address. The field finance director and it says donations.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion made and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to 6C. Discussion and possible action on request by Borough Warden Lori Sauter for establishing a noise ordinance. Miss Lori,
Hello there.
hello.
Probably the second most common, concern that I have heard in probably the last 2 or 3 years is there a noise ordinance?
Mhm.
And, I've heard questions like, is there a noise ordinance in the borough? And is there a noise ordinance in the town? And trying to explain to people that no, there is not a noise ordinance.
Mhm.
I know that one of the concerns from the ordinance committee was enforcement and how would that be enforced? I do know that in other issues like parking in the borough, our resident troopers have always said to us on any issue, if there's an ordinance, it makes enforcement a whole lot easier.
Okay.
So, when the board kind of discussed this, we thought that because it's a common concern of both townspeople and borough people, if the selectmen are in agreement, then jointly we could maybe send it off to the ordinance committee and ask them to craft something. If you are not interested in doing that, we possibly, the borough would possibly try to craft one of their own. Now, as far as, again, I'm gonna go back to enforcement, we have our resident troopers that could enforce, but they're not there 24/7. So it would fall back on the troop,
Right.
which would be the same for in town. Our proposal, when we talked about it, was to just about mirror the state statute,
Mhm.
which I believe is 7 AM to 10 PM.
I'm not sure about, is it 10 or 11? I'm not sure.
I believe that it's 10.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, I guess that would be the task of the ordinance committee to
Yeah.
try to look that up, or we could, you know, we could do some
Right.
investigating too. So again, I wanted to put it out to you guys to see if you wanted to do it in kind of a unified manner. If that's something that you think that the town should have or not have, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, we certainly have had some discussion over the past few years concerning noise. And I know that I recently had a call from a gentleman on the outskirts of town who is asking, does the town have a noise ordinance?
Mhm.
So I don't think I mean, it's nothing that I would be opposed to sending it to the ordinance committee to see.
One of the things I will say, zoning is done a lot with noise ordinances, okay? We've tried to do a lot with, some of the issue is mirroring the state statute, obviously, which is very, very difficult. There's a lot of calibration of meters, there's a lot of training of meters, there's a lot of, the noise isn't gonna be there when they get there.
Right,
Who handles the meters? Who makes the calls? The thing that we came up with most is the enforcement mechanism.
right,
We don't really, you know, from a zoning point of view, we didn't have anybody to do it, whether it was Mario and obviously we don't have state police here, both the borough or the town. You know, what I mean, so that was our big thing, the calibration,
right.
the multiple pieces of equipment you need. It's a great idea, but you know, it may be more, but certainly I think we should investigate it. Certainly you shouldn't take what I'm saying as fact, but I think when the noise ordinance looks into it, they'll.
Yeah, but those are valid points.
They absolutely are, and I actually did a little bit of research on it, and I actually saw that kind of stuff, you know, all of the decibels and the calibrations and
how
all
much
that kind of stuff, and
it's-
I really don't know, I don't know what the financial impact is, but I thought that if we, you know, if we kind of ask the ordinance committee to come up with something, and then, I mean, that's not to say that it's gold from there. You
No,
know,
I
then
think we should do it,
discuss it and we see
Absolutely.
what kind of impact it has. So I wanted to put that forth, you know, to see if you wanted to do it in a unified way or, you know, if, or not.
Yeah.
I guess.
So I guess I'd put a motion forward that we send this back to the ordinance committee to try to craft some regulations
Mhm.
so that the borough and the town can maybe implement some noise ordinances.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. D, discussion and possible action on request by borough warden for clarification on blight officer's role in the borough.
How much stuff does the borough
And I
need?
gotta go.
Miss Lori,
I know, sorry. See what happens when I take over 2 weeks ago. But this is probably the most popular concern that I get is blight in the borough. And back when there was no blight officer in the town,
Mhm.
the former warden took it upon himself to take pictures, send letters out, send the blight ordinance and kind of do that gradual kind of work, to clean up the blight. And he was pretty successful at it. Then the town, hired a blight officer. And when you look at the blight, ordinance, that Lisa, I guess, gave to you guys, which,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you, Lisa.
Yep.
We were looking at it too, and, written throughout that blight ordinance, it's for the town and the borough, and so, we had a couple of blight, incidences, which we referred over to the blight officer, and there was some confusion. We were informed back then that, it's not, this is the borough's kind of gig. So, we kind of argue that because the borough residents pay the town tax and therefore pay the, blight officers, part of the blight officer's salary. So I guess, so what we did was we compared the blight ordinance that we have on our website, on our borough website,
Yep.
to the town's blight ordinance, and there were two very, very small differences. And at last month's meeting, we voted to conform to the Griswold
Yeah.
ordinance, so that there are no differences whatsoever. Everything's, unified, so that if the blight officer takes on the borough, that it will be the same, for everybody.
Right.
So, so I guess that's what I'm asking. I know, Tina, I think that you may have had conversation with the blight officer.
I have. I did a little bit of homework, and going back, I think it was either Jack Cipriano or Mario who kind of worked with the blight situation. And then, of course, Mario went out. And at that point, through COG, a blight officer, we contracted for Jen Lindo for 5 hours a week. And at that point, the borough was cut out of part of the contract. So I had a chance to talk to Jen Lindo, and she feels that that can be reversed if the town sends a letter to COG, including the borough, with the blight inspections, and that she indicated that she has no problem with that.
Would you want her hours extended or stay with the 5
No,
hours?
it would stay with the 5 hours.
Okay,
Is-
I'm no problem with that.
You think the 5 hours are enough?
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, she
Or should
does,
we have somebody in-house again?
she reports, well, you know what, what I would say, or what I would suggest is, try it. See how it goes.
Okay.
She feels comfortable with it. Lord knows there's enough blight in the borough, and she's not overly busy in Griswold right now, but we need to get more addresses to her, and as a matter of fact, I'm meeting with her on tomorrow afternoon. She's gonna be up in my office for a meeting, so
I have no
I'll
problem.
give you an address.
I,
The one I gave her 2 years ago is still like
let me know.
that.
Well, and
Let me
if I can kind of continue on, in the blight, in the complaint form, or I guess they call it a complaint form, it does say that residents have to, if they're making a complaint, a blight complaint, that they have to put their name down.
Good.
And
I think the forms are in the building office.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that you could, I mean, I would like to be able to access those online. However, I will say that several people, and these are people that I know, so it's not like somebody that could be trying to pull something, but they're concerned about putting their names down.
Mhm.
I had a 65-year-old woman who lives by herself.
Yep.
Who wanted to make a complaint and was afraid to make a complaint. I had another one who was in her 70s, lives by herself, afraid to make a complaint. So when I read the blight ordinance, I think there is a part in here that says that the word, the good old word may is in there. That the
Yes,
blight officer may, investigate blight concerns, without a signature. So I just want to make sure we're all on
I have
the
a
same page. with
Couple
that.
questions, I guess. First, should we post it all the time while they're investigating it, or should we only post when the blight officer makes a ruling? Because that's, that for me, because somebody just said it was, the complaints are online now.
No,
Form,
I was,
form.
the.
The form, oh, the form's online.
form.
Okay,
I would like to, for people to be able to access the form to actually make a.
that's fine,
complaint.
but
But not, no, I agree with you. I
Okay.
would not, deal with the
and
process.
I honestly think if you're gonna make a complaint, you should stand behind it. I know these people are old, but I just think that's just, but that's, I'm fine,
Yeah.
whatever everybody else decides, but
Yeah.
I think you should stand behind what you do.
I hear you, and I know that some of the, some of the conversation was, well, if I'm having a beef with my neighbor, am I gonna just put in an anonymous complaint? I think that, I don't know. I don't know what, the blight officer's time restrictions are or limitations are.
Mm.
But if there's something that comes in without a signature, is it too much to ask to just do a ride-by and see if that's, a legitimate blight concern?
I don't think so. I know that, I mean, in my former position, I can tell you, there's a lot of retaliation. And that's scary.
I get that, but I think it's like having letters to the editor and not signing them too, I mean, people got a lot more gutsy when they don't have to stand behind something, that's all I'm thinking, that's just my opinion, but I
Right.
totally understand
Right,
a little old lady
Yeah.
and being scared, I get that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the exception of the rule, not the rule. And I think without signatures, it's gonna be, it could turn into getting a complaint every week about the next door neighbor,
right.
Without-
I think-
without
I
any-
think that
Maybe
there's-
what your earlier suggestion is initially, when someone files a complaint, the ordinance blight officer goes by and checks and verifies that in fact there is a, then sign the form.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not, I don't know where the form would go from there. Is the person guaranteed, confidentiality, if they do that? If they put their name down? Because here's the other concern, not even a concern, but if somebody gives a concern and doesn't sign it and does it kind of anonymously, in the case of the two women that contacted me, completely legitimate, completely. So I, in that case, would not mind
Sign it.
making that, putting it through, because I know that. But if there's no signature on it, there's no way it's coming back, these people will never know if it was ever investigated, and unless the place is cleaned up or whatever, but there's no way to get back to these people. And if people do put their names on it, does it go back to them? And,
Yes. It should.
is there an answer? So that might be the giveaway, right there. If you put something in, you're not gonna know.
I'm more concerned about the abuse, what I mean, the two neighbors fighting and every week, we're gonna be over 5 or 6 hours, with constant,
Well, let me give you an
that's my
example.
thought, that's.
Yesterday, in fact, this just happened yesterday. There was a complaint that came in on the outskirts of town. And Jen did go out. She did a drive-by. She checked out everything on the list that the neighbor was complaining about. And nothing was under the definition of blight. It was there were some things that probably could have been cleaned up, but nothing that defined blight. So she basically closed the case.
Right.
There was nothing there for her to proceed with.
Now, how does when she closes the case, is that public knowledge that case is closed, or how does?
She sends notice to the selectman's office.
Okay.
And that goes into,
So we get
a blight
notified
file.
that there was a blight, somebody
Yes.
called blight,
Yep.
somebody looked at it, it was
Yep.
resolved.
And as she continues to work with residents, they did a little bit here, they did a little bit here. We've got an arrangement to move forward with this. So, but she does keep us informed.
Okay,
Is there a definition of blight somewhere? That
It's in the
she is at her,
Yeah, there's,
It's in the ordinance.
yeah,
Oh, it's
there's a
in the
blight
ordinance.
ordinance, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think the first thing that I think we should start with is contacting COG and letting them know that the current blight officer
Can do both,
can do both, the borough and the town. All
right?
right, I think that's step one,
Let me make a motion for that.
if you can.
All right, I make a motion that we contact the blight officer through COG to have Jewett City, the borough of Jewett City and Griswold be added to that same contract for the blight officer.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, and then I am gonna take a look at the complaint form in the building office, and then we can probably address that at a later time. But at least this will get the ball rolling. Agree?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to E, discussion and possible action on request by Rob Perret to formally disband the Griswold Senior Center Building Committee.
I guess the obvious question is, all money's paid, everything done? Obviously, the senior center is up and running, but there's no outstanding things left open at this point.
No, there are only two things. There was a wish list that went before the Board of Finance that was going to come out of the $1.2 million that we had received. One of them was the automatic door openers in the bathrooms. That is currently being worked on. The electricians were up there yesterday, and I think the door company is going to be coming in. It should be done within a week. So that is starting. And the only other thing are the, correct me, Todd, if I pronounce it wrong, the bollards in the front of the building for protection against drivers.
And the medallion too, right? That gold thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, I would.
Well, actually, the medallion is separate.
So technically speaking, we can't do
We can't
this
take, right.
till it's all completed, right?
Okay,
my-
well,
You're still spending money on it. I
wouldn't
would
be my
think
thought.
that
okay,
even though they may not meet
I say we
again,
table it till the next month's meeting, and if
That's
it's,
fair.
if it's done, then we'll deal with it then.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table. E, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to F. Discussion and possible action on GIS mapping services, and I don't have the documentation in here. I talked to Eric, and basically the GIS mapping services, it's geological information system. And this is something that Mario alerted us to. This was, it was a mapping system that Boundaries had done. They were the ones who performed this service for the assessor's office for quite some time, but
Updating the maps, you mean?
yes.
Yeah.
And they have backed out of it. It hasn't been done in quite some time because the way that Mr. Felice explained it to me is you need an upgraded system. So Mario had a company, Ty and Bond, submit a proposal to us. But I think what we need to do is, I think that we need to go out to bid on this to see if we can get other proposals, additional proposals.
What kind of number are we talking about? Is this a substantial number?
It is. It
I
is.
mean, I think we got a bunch of substantial issues to deal with. Does it have to be done? Is there a regulation that has to be done this year, or can I wait a little bit?
There's
I think
not a regulation. I don't know
The
what,
problem, as I understand it, is the maps haven't been upgraded in quite a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
With no assessor on board and everything is kind of, and now Damien used to do the
Right.
before, and he left Felice's Boundaries, and now nobody's doing it.
Can we get a
So-
number though before we?
Oh, yeah,
We
for
can get a
sure,
number.
for sure.
A broad stroke number, not, can
Yeah.
we know we're talking hundreds or thousands or what we're talking about
okay.
before?
But
we
I just
do-
wanted to bring you on board to let you
Oh,
know
I'll
that
have to
this
go
is
out to
something
bid.
No, I
Yeah.
get it.
that needs to be on our radar. All right. So can we have a motion to table this for further information?
I make a motion, we table this so we get at least ballpark pricing on what this is gonna cost and what we're, when we're required to do it. If there is any requirements, but
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Discussion and possible action on Earth Day cleanup. We're keeping this on the agenda, but I think, as of right now, I think we're going to table it, other than saying if there are groups, committees who would like to sign up for, Adopt a Road, anything like that, to participate.
And what's the date on that? 4/27?
The 27th, yes.
I do know zoning and wetlands are both plan to send everybody to do a road.
Okay. Excellent. And I think the Democratic Town Committee, they've committed. The senior center is going to commit to it, so I did get a map, a town map of all of the roads. So I'll be marking off roads that are adopted in areas. So we'll see if we can get the youth center on board also. Okay, H, discuss an impossible action on request by Martin Osga to formally disband the Griswold Alternative Space Needs Committee. His letter is in here. I know that we talked about it at last meeting, but as chair, this is his formal request.
This is, he said everything's done.
Right, that's
So-
the only question I got.
Yeah. According to last, I'll make a motion that we accept the letter from Mr. Osger and formally disband the Grizzle Alternative Space Needs Committee.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Okay, moving on to I, discussion and possible action on reinstating a commission on aging. This goes back.
When did we not, when did this get disinstated?
It hasn't been, it has not been active for many, many years. All right, it goes way back to Charlie Gagne when he was the chair. And then as time went on, members dropped off, and it was, I think, the last administration, and Lisa, you might know something about this. The last administration you had, you put out a request.
Yes, I think we've got 2 interested people.
Okay. So I think that we need to pursue this again. It is, I think a commission on aging is essential, and if I'm not mistaken, I know that the state requires municipal agents to be appointed. And I think that commission on aging, especially with the state agency on aging, it's highly recommended.
Right,
So-
the only question I would say, back to boards and commissions, if everybody looks to the back page, I don't
Mhm.
think it should go between the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. I think it should come to Board of Finance directly, and then Board of Selectmen go to Board of Finance for funding. If you look at how it's read, it
The
says,
commission on aging?
yeah, right here. Serve the Board of Selectmen, this is what you gave, me, right? That they're an advisory board that sits between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance.
But it has nothing to do with financials.
That's why I'm asking it.
It doesn't. It's really just kind of oversight. And
But it does say an advisory board between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance in relation to financial support or programs of the elderly in the town of Griswold.
well, I disagree, but if that's
You
what it
disagree,
says, then
that's
that's
what
what
it
we have to
says.
do.
Serves as advisors to both boards, not
Um,
one order, and that, you know,
I just,
Well, that's
it's
something
pretty
that we can
clear.
have, we can go before the Board of Finance, but that's, even when we had it before,
Right.
it never went before the Board of Finance. That's why I'm surprised. That's the only
right,
reason.
and then the other thing is on 4-6, the reimbursement, and zoning and wetlands, we have to take courses and stuff, and we're not reimbursed, so I don't know why we should reimburse a commission, because it says, members of this commission shall serve without compensation, but any necessary expenses of the commission will be paid by the town through proper appropriate procedures. So I just want to make sure that we're not paying stuff on the other side of that.
So I'm gonna tell you that looking at this, I think it really has to be revisited.
I know, that's what I'm talking about.
So who, Yeah, there's a lot in there that really shouldn't be in there. And it was never followed before.
No, I'm just saying, I.
No,
did
and
read
you're
it.
right to point it out, and I appreciate that, but I think that we have to look at this.
I agree.
So-
Before we, I think we should modify this to what
Yep.
we're comfortable with, and then put the board in place post this modification.
Yep,
Because if you put them in before, then they're gonna have to follow these.
I'll be totally honest, I did not read this in my packet,
Okay,
so.
I
just
start from the
being
back,
honest.
that's why I did mine, I start the back and read forward.
Okay, well, I'm glad you did. All right, so. Somebody want to make a motion to table and revise, look at the,
I absolutely would make a motion that, I'm very, I really want
Have to go to
commission
the
on the
ordinance
agent.
committee?
What's
huh?
that?
You have to go to the ordinance committee?
It should,
Yeah.
it should,
Oh, okay.
but I think that we need to look at it first and, we need to make recommendations as to what's appropriate for that particular commission.
Okay. I make a motion and, we look at it at one of our next meetings, just because it's only 2 pages and a half. And then we send it to the ordinance committee for further evaluation.
The motion is to table to next meeting, you mean? Is that the motion?
Did I say that? I thought I wanted to I wanted to revisit this as a board, put our regulations in it, and then send it to the ordinance committee.
So you table
to
it till the
review,
next
right?
meeting?
Yeah, I guess I'm.
Yes.
I'll second that.
That's what he said.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? All right. Number 7, any other business that may properly come before the board? Lisa, you gave something.
Email from Fred Marzick.
Yeah, there was a Fred Marzick email, and it's right in front of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we put it on the agenda, a letter from the fire marshal, Fred Marzick.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. You've had a chance to read this. I don't know what your thoughts are,
Well,
but,
first off, my recommendation is to send it to town attorney
okay,
and see if there's a legal issue here or not. I certainly don't have any problem with Fred and his work as both a fire marshal and his private business, but I think we need to maybe get a legal opinion so that we don't
okay.
put ourselves in a,
I agree, but I thought that the letter was just a cursory thing, and I think he's been doing it for years. I think it's just a follow-up to new board of selectmen. I believe that's the way I was reading it. But I
don't-
could be wrong.
I don't know,
I don't know.
well,
but,
did he do the work on the school
Yes.
back
Yes.
here?
Yes.
So he's already, you're right,
That's-
he's already did it.
That's
Oh,
what,
I
that's how I
didn't,
read it.
didn't think about it till just now.
We may have a letter from the attorney or opinion. I'll have to look in the files and see if we do.
okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion and we table it
Yeah.
till
Okay, I
next
second that
meeting.
motion.
okay.
Hopefully get some more information.
Yep.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to bring onto the agenda, upcoming Board of Selectmen meetings. Dates,
Want more?
just a heads up. So I motioned that we put this on the agenda,
I'll second it.
okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and this is just for general information for the public, for the residents. Because of early voting, the Board of Selectmen meeting for the 26th is going to be canceled. And the next Board of Selectmen meeting after that will take place on April 9th. Okay, early voting is going to be held in this room, and it's taking up quite a few nights, all right? And I know you're away on the 9th, Rich?
Yeah.
So we're going to Zoom you in,
Okay.
okay? And the other announcement that I'd like to make is that the Board of Selectmen special meetings scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Unfortunately is going to have to be canceled and will be rescheduled as soon as possible, as soon as we can resolve a few issues. That's all I have.
Okay,
All right. Any other business?
I have
Okay.
none.
I have none.
Then we will move on to number 8, public forum. Dave,
Debut 59 Lee Avenue, 2 items. As far as the blight officer's role in in the borough and giving blight notices, it's been my personal experience that they actually send a letter to the person receiving the complaint with the complainer's name on it, which it's been my experience that there was immediate retaliation. So I can understand where the borough is concerned about this. I agree with Martin that a name should be put on the document, but I don't think it should be shared with the problem property. And maybe that can be addressed, because like I said, it's been my personal experience. And if a name has to be put on it, and it's an elderly person or a frail person, maybe they could take it to Lori. She can put her name on it, because I don't think there's any residents in Jewett City that are afraid of her. So.
I don't know about that.
Well, they're not gonna retaliate, is what I'm saying.
We have a pile of them for you, Lori. So.
Well, you know what? Then that's a suggestion that we'll take a look at, whose name do you put on there?
Yeah.
If any.
And regarding a noise ordinance, as Martin knows, I've been involved for 40 years of my life with noise monitoring as a sonar technician in the Navy and as a government employee.
Okay,
I don't think there's anybody in town that knows more about it. I have my own noise monitor, sound decibel meter,
so we'll call you.
and if you pay me for it, I'd be happy to. But I'm very familiar with 22A-69, the Connecticut noise law. And I've reviewed it in planning and zoning meetings several times. And it's specifically spelled out in there that it has to be a member of that department to make the measurement. And it's made 1 meter from the property line, not the source. And it's very complicated. And yes, you can train somebody to do it. But my concern would be if they ended up having to take it to court, would we be in violation or conflict with the state noise law that says their people have to do the measurement? That was the one thing we fell in with the people up the road. They had a private company do it.
I know more about noise ordinance because of this guy than I've ever known. We've been doing noise ordinance for 3 years in zoning. So
Yeah.
I totally understand. And we had the American industry stuff and we did a lot with it. Yeah.
And in all honesty, you don't need a sound pressure decibel meter. You can go online and download certain apps and check it comparatively with a decibel meter and find out it's within 1 to 2 dB.
Okay,
And when you talk 3 dB, that's twice as loud. So 1 to 2 dB is nothing, when you're talking sound measurements. So,
okay. Okay, we've got some homework to do and some conversation to have.
I know the ordinance committee will be looking at this for a long time.
Well.
But I think we're gonna need some legal advice on how do we conflict with the state law? Will if we do get a local law or ordinance, is it gonna cause a conflict?
Okay, all right, thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Todd Babbitt.
Todd Babbitt, 60 Foot Hill Road. As far as the blight, I have a few concerns. 5 hours a week is not much. And I've noticed in the town, we've made quite a bit of headway lately.
Mhm.
Stop property, I understand the Binsky property below that is gonna be next. Vacant, fallen down house on Norton Road, Furlong's Garage. There's quite a few things that have been cleaning up. And I'm just leery that we're gonna in only 5 hours a week. I know when I was on the board prior, the administration had signed this contract with the COG and they only had 5 hours available. But maybe we could see if they have any other availability.
Additional?
Get on a list, if we could free up a couple more hours a week somewhere with another town. I just think it might be beneficial to look at because it does appear we're making headway. And things are getting done.
Okay,
I do agree that, there could be retaliation with those forms, but there's got to be a way, I believe once those are filed, they become public information anyways. you know, there's gotta be a way on a case-by-case basis, I think like was discussed, to drive by. And then maybe if there is a valid issue, then there's a name put on it. But I've gone through this in Norwich just recently with a commercial property in front of our residential property. And I had to fill out the form, I had to sign it. And they know it was me, they're not happy, but they just doubled the assessments and they gotta start cleaning things up if they're gonna charge more taxes, in my opinion, in Norwich. And, you know, I think people here can be upset too, especially this year. We could see a mill rate increase according to the Board of Finance. You know, if you have junk around you, people don't wanna clean it up if they're gonna be paying more. You know, and I get that. The other thing I have is on the GIS mapping. Do we know if that will be able to be uploaded with the Vision software so we can view property maps online like we used to and see boundary lines? We use that a lot in public works in the field, and my understanding is when we went to Vision, they didn't support the GIS data that we had prior with the other company that was doing the field work. So I could look up an address and actually pull up the outline of their property.
So there was a company before Vision.
Company we used before Vision, you could go on and you could look up a property address and it would show you the property outline.
Mhm.
It would show you if their town easement is on the side of that property, where it is, and we utilize that quite a bit in the field.
But your understanding is that this particular system will not work with Vision?
I think it was too old, the stuff we had.
Excuse me.
Their software. So I don't know if this will give us that capability again, that's my question.
Okay, I'll ask the question. Okay, any other public forum? Wayne?
Right now, on Pequot Trail. Um, Let's see, the multi-jurisdictional,
Yes.
Paul and I are two officers of public health and safety. I believe the shelters are on our agenda, to try to figure that issue out, you know, how we're gonna cooling and warming shelters. Is that the issue that we're dealing with, that we're talking about?
Whether we want to sign a contract.
Yeah, it's actually an agreement to move forward with the surrounding
Okay.
towns. And this multi-jurisdictional shelter suggestion goes quite a few years back, and they're just now reviving it. So I think they're trying to find out, you know, which towns would still be interested in it, but I've done some preliminary discussion about it, and I mean, I'm being told that even it has to be a very, very serious event for that particular shelter, the multi-jurisdictional, to open. In which case, if it's that serious, how do we get people there? Because it'll be our responsibility to get people there. We do have to have, I think, 2 staff members available there the entire time. There also has to be a municipal advisor on site for most of the time to keep our residents informed in Plainfield as to what's happening in our town. We also have to have somebody available afterwards for kind of restoring the space and cleaning and things like that. So, yeah, there's,
Animal shelter.
Animal stuff,
yeah, we have to provide an animal shelter. But I was also told, and, you know, don't quote me on this, but there's a possibility, at least I had been told, that even if that multi-jurisdictional shelter is open, we still have to have something available here to house people. So it's kind of like a dual thing. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Okay, so, I don't know, I just think that public health and safety, if you can get any help with that, then just let us know.
Absolutely.
We can help you with that.
Yep, thank you.
The other thing is, you brought up the Earth Day thing on 4/27, and I'll make sure the RTC is aware of it, and our committees are aware of it, and we'll roll it out to them,
Good, thank you.
see if they'll
Yep.
volunteer.
Yep.
That's it.
And April 27th is also Drug Take Back Day. So that's going to be happening at the Senior Center with Griswold Pride. So there's going to be a lot of activity that day in town, which is good. Any other public forum? Lori,
I just want to make one other suggestion, regarding the Earth Day.
Excuse me, Lori.
I'm sorry, Lori Sorter, 67 Ashland Street.
Thank you.
Just a suggestion to maybe put that out to the school. It's becoming the end of the school year. Kids may need volunteer hours to get their, portfolio complete. So, it might be just something to put out to them.
oh, excellent.
Good idea.
Yep, it is a great idea. Thank you. Any other public forum? Any other public forum? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. We are adjourned at